Good morning, everyone. And Brexit news this morning has taken a backseat quite rightly after the terrible news from New Zealand and the attacks on two mosques in Christchurch in the middle of Friday night prayers, carried out by far-right extremists. Already 49 people have been reported dead. That death toll may rise. And just horrendous for New Zealand, who has never had to deal with this kind of violence before. None of us should have to deal with this kind of violence ever. And quite rightly, Brexit does take a little bit of a pinch of salt this morning to talk about it, but that is partly why I'm here. So we are going to talk about Brexit, and we will wait to hear more from New Zealand during the day, no doubt. Headline this morning is that MPs voted overwhelmingly last night to seek a short extension to Article 50. This would be of around a few months, probably ending around the 30th of June. Entirely predicted, not least by me. What I think is interesting is, having appeared to have lost control completely on Wednesday night, Theresa May appears to have brought it back from the brink, where her cabinet and her party are more or less towing the line, or a lot more than they were on Wednesday night. So the government motion was the short extension to Article 50, and there are a few other motions which I will talk about now, which the government basically saw off. So there were several amendments put forward last night, but there are only two I really want to talk about. One was the Sarah Wollaston amendment, which was putting forward the idea of a people's vote, second referendum. That was absolutely trounced, 400 votes to 84. So there's absolutely no appetite for a second referendum in the House of Commons at the moment, though they feel confident that that could change. And the other one was the Benn Amendment. Now, this suggested that the House of Commons basically held a series of indicative votes to see if they could all come round another idea as an alternative to Theresa May's vote. And that was defeated very narrowly, but it was defeated. And so basically the opportunity that Parliament had to wrest control of the Brexit process from the government has just passed. It's now back in the government's hands, and Theresa May is going to push forward for her deal again next week. Not sure what day. We're not sure if it's going to be before the European Council or after. So remember, it's not up to the UK whether we extend Article 50 or not. It is up to the other 27 member states, and they must decide unanimously what their response is going to be. Now, the EU will have been expecting last night's results in the same way that everyone else was. Opinion is still divided as to what they're prepared to grant the UK. If it's going to be a few months, are we just going to muck around in the same way that we have? Some will be more in favour of a longer extension because that might give the opportunity for a second referendum. There are those that still hope that the UK will change its mind. So that is yet to be seen. I think Theresa May will probably hold her vote early in the week because she wants to use the threat of a long extension to coerce MPs to vote for her deal. So I expect the vote early on in the week, followed by the European Council on Wednesday. But I think that's yet to be decided. One thing I think is often overlooked in our understanding of the EU is that it's not an amalgamous mass. It's 27 member states, and each leader has their own parliament and electorate to answer to. And they have priorities and they have policies that are all part of this very intricate game. When the negotiations happen, they can't be seen to be giving too much to the UK, but also they have to protect their citizens' rights, many of whom are living in this country. So just understand that they're going to have to go back after the European Council and go, well, this is what I did, this is what I said, and this is what we have agreed. So just kind of remember that it's not just us that has that give and take with the EU, it's everyone. That's what makes it so complicated. Crucial point, it is not yet time to breathe a sigh of relief. Even though MPs have voted against leaving with no deal, and even though they have voted to seek an extension to Article 50, as it stands, the legislation in the UK and EU still says that we are leaving the EU on the 29th of March with no deal because there is no other option in place. Theresa May is going to use this to continue to strong-arm MPs into voting with her deal, I believe, early next week. She's anticipating maybe even having a fourth vote if it doesn't go through next week. So I still think she'll get it through because the threat of a long extension of several years is absolutely abhorrent to those key hardliners who are kind of causing a lot of the problems at the moment. And I've said already yesterday that Theresa May's deal is not brilliant, but then there is no brilliant version of Brexit. It just does not exist. And therefore, any kind of certainty that we can then kind of go, right, we know what it is now, we can get on with it, is going to be better than the kind of anticipation, which is frankly killing us. I am actually going to end on a light note today, which is Donald Trump weighing in yesterday saying, Theresa hasn't done very well with the negotiations, has she? She should have listened to me and sued the EU like I told her to. I would have done a much better job. Like, yeah, Donald, you'd have done a great job. If you can imagine how the Brexit negotiations could have been worse. We could have had Boris, we could have had Trump. Though some say that actually his somewhat unique style could have worked because no one would have known where to put themselves. But I'll just leave you with that note.